So after taking control of the presidency and both houses of Congress and soon the Supreme Court, the GOP is casting their eyes to one of the few places where liberals actually have control over what happens, and that is some of the biggest, most liberal cities around the country. And they've got a plan to stop us from doing anything there, too. Republican state legislatures are planning so-called preemption laws, which prevent cities and counties from passing new measures governing pronunciation and other things like taxes, environmental regulations, and social issues. You know what? Let's not even cut that out. Let's leave that in the final one so people know how stupid I am. Anyway, so basically, they're able to pass a law at the state level that says you at the city level can't pass laws about whatever the hell I say you can't pass laws about. And if you're not scared enough, find out who's helping them in this measure. That's the Conservative American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC. They've offered 5 sample preemption bills on everything from local minimum wage hikes to rules governing genetically modified food and other agricultural products. Because screw those of you on the minimum wage, we're going to make sure that even if you're lucky enough to live in a lib place where they might raise it, we're going to stop them because we got a Republican legislature at the state level. I'm going to give you examples of when they've already done this, but go.
But what about states' rights? What about states' rights, huh, Republicans? You know?
That's states' rights, not cities' rights.
This is insane, right? So, again, they show their hypocrisy when it comes to these issues. They believe that on certain issues, constituents might have unique experiences that might make them want certain policies unique to the areas that they live in. Therefore, the federal government, too large, too big. Let's downsize the federal government and ensure that states and municipalities have the ability to rule over their jurisdiction. See, I'm doing it too.
There you go. Spreads.
But they only do that or make that argument when it's convenient for them. When they are leading the federal government, right? When they control Congress, when the president is, a Republican, all of a sudden, what do you mean states' rights? Look, municipalities, cities, who cares about what they want? Who cares about their unique experiences? Look, this is why people are worried about Jeff Sessions as Attorney General, because what kind of impact is that going to have on things like marijuana laws? Now, there are more important laws, of course, to worry about, but marijuana laws are also important because marijuana being criminalized in the United States and this war on drugs amplified, mass incarceration. And that's the reason why we have private prisons. That's the reason why we imprison more people than anyone or any other country in the world, right? So more people are going to be in prison. Private prisons are going to regain some of the power that they lost under Obama's administration. It's going to be a nightmare. And so I'm also worried about things like reproductive rights. If Donald Trump successfully nominates a Supreme Court justice or a few Supreme Court justices that overturn Roe v. Wade,
which he has said he will.
Which he said he will. And his argument was, well, we'll leave it up to the states to decide what they do. What kind of impact would legislation like this have?
Yeah.
I worry about that as well, so we'll see.
Yeah, and so look, there might be some people who are going to say, well, aren't you libs being hypocritical here? Because you don't, in all cases, support states' rights. You don't let states do whatever they want.
That's
right. True. There are areas where we don't.
Like civil rights issues, for instance.
Exactly.
Yeah, so gay marriage is a civil rights issue because you're dealing with individuals who are born with a sexual orientation, and discriminating against them is wrong. Civil rights issue, the federal government should take a stand and be a leader on issues like that. So certain issues are not states' rights issues, and that's an example.
Yeah, or when they try to ban interracial marriage, for instance, which we only got the last of those got rid of like less than 20 years ago. Or when they try to stop a woman's ability to choose. These are not things that are in their domain. The Constitution has protections for that. So we protect the Constitution in that case. That's not what they're doing here. Let me give you an idea of how specific and how petty some of these restrictions are. So these are the ones that have already happened. Legislatures in Michigan and Wisconsin have passed laws preempting local governments from banning plastic grocery bags. A fundamental civil right if I've ever heard one. In the last few years, courts have upheld the rights of Colorado and Texas legislatures to prevent municipalities from banning fracking within their borders. Ohio is the latest state to preempt local efforts to raise the minimum wage. Even the controversial HB 2 law passed last year by the North Carolina Republican-controlled legislature is a preemption law. It blocked the city of Charlotte from enforcing anti-discrimination measures that were stronger than statewide laws already on the books. Measures similar to HB 2, preempting local protections for gays, lesbians, and transgender people, have already been filed in states like South Carolina, South Dakota, and Texas. They're not trying to protect their constitutional rights, they're trying to take away yours. And they're trying to stop you from having plastic bags.
Let's be absolutely clear about one thing.
Absolutely.
And I think our audience is smart enough to catch on to this theme that plays over and over again, in the news. Republicans love big government. The only time they don't like big government is when it has to do with regulating the same corporations that are lining their pockets with campaign dollars. Otherwise, they love big government. They want big government in your pussy. They want big government involved in whether or not you can use plastic bags in your city. I mean, how much bigger can you possibly get as the federal government?
And by the way, if you want to have a debate about whether the city should be able to ban plastic bags, then elect a different mayor, okay? But stopping a city from doing something that tiny and that specific is absolutely ridiculous. And here's where it gets a little bit scarier and a little bit broader. So the fear going forward after the election is that we can get them next time if there's a true next time, if we have true democracy in 4 years, if winning matters in 4 years, but there are already reasons to suspect that it might not. We saw what happened in North Carolina, where a Democrat wins the governor's mansion, and so they take away the power of the governor's mansion. So fundamentally, it doesn't really matter if a Democrat wins that position, the power has been taken away. We know that in a larger sense, the system is already rigged against a Democratic victory. A Democratic presidential nominee got more votes in the popular count. Democratic senatorial candidates got more votes. In the House, Democrats got more votes. And yet you'll notice that we don't control the presidency, the House, or the Senate. And then look at this. Preemption laws, you have to write a whole law to stop them from banning a plastic bag. That takes time. Ain't nobody got time for that. I don't even have time to sign the ALEC ones that they just handed me. Some Republican-dominated states are considering blanket preemption laws, similar to a measure Arizona lawmakers passed last year. That law would allow the state to cut off funding to cities that refuse to give up laws that run counter to state law. None of this case-by-case basis. They are now your leader. They are your dictator. If they don't like something you did, all funding to your city is gone. So if you have a sanctuary city, they don't like that you're protecting undocumented immigrants, gone. All of your funding. You're protecting transgender individuals, gone. Doesn't matter if you win a city council, doesn't matter if you win the mayor's mansion. Gone. Power.
It's unbelievable. And then they'll sit there and they'll talk about, again, how they're in favor of shrinking the size of government, how they're in favor of individual liberty. If they were truly in favor of individual liberty, they would ensure that people have the right to do whatever they want with their bodies. It's our body, right? Yeah. Whether it's reproductive rights, the drugs we use, who we have sex with. I mean, every little tiny issue involving our personal lives, they want to get involved in. The plastic bag thing blows my mind, by the way. It's one small thing that's barely even an inconvenience to anyone, and it helps protect our planet. And they're against that.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
I live in Culver City, okay? I can't have a plastic bag.
Look, I hated the reusable bag thing at first, but now I kind of love it, right? Yeah. Of course, I didn't rail against it because I was smart enough to understand how positive it was for the environment. Yeah. But at the same time, if you don't want to use the plastic bags, or if you don't want to use the reusable bags and you want to destroy the environment, you can still do that. You pay 10 cents in California per bag.
Per bag?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Preempted.